Forget the wooden horse. And forget Helen, too. Archaeologists found the real Troy, and the truth turned out to be far darker than the legend. This wasn't a war fought for love. It may have been history's first great struggle for trade and control of one of the world's most important sea routes. Today we'll explore Troy not through Homer's poetry, but through burned ruins, human remains, and arrowheads embedded in its walls. But to understand how a brutal conflict over power became humanity's greatest epic, we must begin at the very start, just as the ancient Greeks remembered it. Year 1, the war begins. According to legend, it all began, not with an army, not even with kings, but with one man, Paris, a young Trojan prince. According to the myth, at the wedding of Achilles' parents, the goddess of discord, Eris, threw a golden apple into the crowd. It bore a single inscription, "To the fairest." 3 goddesses immediately claimed it belonged to them: Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite. Paris was unexpectedly chosen to decide. Each tried to bribe him. Hera offered him power. Athena promised glory in battle. But Aphrodite's offer proved impossible to resist. She promised Paris the most beautiful woman in the world, Helen. There was only one problem. Helen was already the wife of Menelaus, king of Sparta. Soon afterward, Paris arrived in Sparta as an honored guest. Then he sailed back to Troy, with Helen by his side. Whether she was abducted or left willingly, we will probably never know. But to the Greeks, it was an unforgivable insult. Menelaus turned to his brother, Agamemnon, king of Mycenae. Agamemnon began gathering allies from across Greece. According to legend, more than 1,000 ships sailed toward the shores of Troy. Today, historians are skeptical of that number, but the expedition itself may well have been real, and its true cause may have been far greater than love. Troy stood at one of the most strategic locations of the entire Bronze Age. It controlled the Dardanelles, the narrow strait connecting the Mediterranean and the Black Sea. Almost every major trading ship passed through these waters. Copper, tin, grain, timber, precious goods, all flowed through this narrow passage. Whoever controlled Troy controlled immense wealth. Perhaps Helen was only a convenient excuse, and the real causes of the war were trade, wealth, and power. Years 2 to 9, the long siege. Most people imagine the Trojan War as 10 years of non-stop fighting, but in reality, that would have been impossible. No Bronze Age army could launch daily assaults against a massive fortified city. The attackers would quickly run out of food, horses, weapons, and men. Instead, the war became a long siege. The Greeks established a vast camp along the shoreline. From there, they launched constant raids against Troy's allies. They seized food, livestock, slaves, and anything that could keep their army alive. The Trojans didn't simply hide behind their walls. They regularly marched out to drive the Greeks back toward the sea. Year after year, neither side could gain a decisive advantage. That's why the war dragged on for nearly a decade. Archaeology has shown that many of the details described by Homer were surprisingly accurate. For a long time, historians believed the famous boar's tusk helmets were pure fiction. But archaeologists later uncovered exactly those helmets in Mycenaean tombs. Homer described military equipment that had disappeared centuries before his own lifetime, which suggests he preserved genuine memories of the Bronze Age. Discoveries like these have led many scholars to view the Trojan War not simply as a legend, but as a story where myth and history became intertwined. Year 10, the Wrath of Achilles. By the 10th year of the war, neither side had achieved victory. The Greeks still controlled the coast. The Trojans still held their walls. It is at this point that the events of the Iliad begin. Contrary to popular belief, the Iliad is not the story of the entire Trojan War. It tells only a few weeks, from the final year of the siege. Its central figure is Achilles, the greatest warrior in the Greek army. According to legend, his mother dipped him into the river Styx, making his body invulnerable. Except for one place, his heel. But historians consider that story a much later myth. In the Iliad, Achilles is not immortal. He is simply the finest warrior of his age. The conflict begins not because of a battle, but because of human pride. After one of the Greek raids, prisoners are taken. Agamemnon is forced to return his captive, and as compensation, he takes Achilles' prize, a young woman named Briseis. To a modern audience, this may seem insignificant, but to a Bronze Age warrior, it was a public humiliation. Achilles is consumed by rage. He refuses to fight, and that decision changes the course of the war. Without their greatest champion, the Greek army begins to lose ground. Led by Prince Hector, the Trojans steadily push the Greeks back, almost to their ships. For the first time in many years, Troy seems close to victory. Then everything changes. Achilles' closest companion, Patroclus, asks for permission to enter the battle. He puts on Achilles' famous armor, hoping to inspire the Greek army. At first, the plan works. The Trojans mistake him for Achilles and begin to retreat. But Hector soon realizes the truth. In a fierce duel, he kills Patroclus. When Achilles learns of his friend's death, his grief becomes greater than his pride. He takes up his weapons once again. Now he has only one goal: to kill Hector. Their duel becomes the most famous single combat of the ancient world. Homer describes the two greatest warriors chasing one another around the walls of Troy, before finally facing each other. In the end, Achilles prevails. He ties Hector's body to his chariot and drags it around the city. To modern eyes, the act is horrifying. And even Homer makes it clear that Achilles' rage has gone too far. Only later does Achilles return Hector's body to the aged king Priam, who enters the Greek camp himself to beg for the return of his son. It is one of the most deeply human moments in the Iliad, a reminder that on both sides of the war, there were not only heroes, but fathers, mothers, and families. Year 10, the wooden horse. After Hector's death, Troy lost its greatest defender. But even then, the city remained unconquered. Its mighty walls withstood every assault. The Greeks realized they could no longer win by force. According to legend, this is when the most famous military deception in history was conceived: the wooden horse. The story says the Greek army pretended to abandon the war. Their ships sailed away. Only a gigantic wooden horse remained on the shore, supposedly left as an offering to the goddess Athena. The people of Troy celebrated their victory. Despite the warnings of the priest Laocoon, they dragged the horse inside the city. That night, Greek warriors emerged from its hollow interior. They opened the city gates. The fleet returned. And the final night of Troy began. It is an extraordinary story, and many historians doubt that it happened exactly this way. Several alternative theories have been proposed. Perhaps the horse was actually a siege engine used to break through the city gates. Others suggest it symbolized an earthquake. In Greek mythology, the horse was sacred to Poseidon, who was also worshipped as the god of earthquakes. A third theory argues that the horse was simply a powerful literary metaphor, which gradually became accepted as history. Whichever explanation proves correct, one fact remains: the city really was destroyed, and archaeology confirms it. Year 10, the fall of Troy. Beneath the modern hill of Hizarlik, archaeologists uncovered the remains of several ancient cities, built one on top of another. The strongest candidate for Homer's Troy is the layer known as Troy 7a. It dates to the late 13th or early 12th century BC. Here, researchers discovered unmistakable signs of a violent catastrophe. Bronze arrowheads were scattered throughout the site. Sling stones were found in the streets, Many houses had been completely destroyed by fire. Inside several buildings, archaeologists found enormous storage jars still filled with grain. It appears the inhabitants had prepared for a long siege, stockpiling food in advance. Some human remains were discovered exactly where the victims had fallen. They had never received proper burials, as they normally would have in times of peace. Together, these discoveries tell a clear story. The city fell suddenly, after a brutal conflict. Was it the Trojan War described by Homer? We cannot know for certain, but the coincidence is remarkable. Both the location and the date of the destruction closely match the ancient tradition. That is why most historians today believe the legend of the Trojan War was most likely inspired by real events, which, over the centuries, grew into one of the greatest epics of the ancient world.